Life is vulnerability. Life is being seen. We cannot be loved without truly being seen. And so when you let yourself be seen, you let yourself be loved. How do you expect to find your people if you can't be yourself in the world? How do you expect for your people to find you if they don't know what they're looking for? They don't know who you are. You're hiding. Oftentimes, the call of our heart is not the most comfortable thing to do. Oftentimes, it's the thing that will dismantle us from the current reality that has only brought us the same conditioned patterns that we know lead us into comfortability and chosen fear.
But you're awakening already, right? It's already happening. That's why you're here and why you're listening.
Nothing is broken in your world. Nothing needs to be changed. Nothing needs to be different. And yet everything is constantly changing because it is the inevitable nature of that which is eternal.
What I've come to realize in this endless searching for answers is that there really are none.
If you spend your whole life trying to get your act together, then what do you have? You have an act, right? Instead of a life.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Figuring Shit Out. I am Vanessa Fontana. I'm your host. And if you're new here, Figuring Shit Out is a space for brave, intentional living, and it is meant to help you courageously embrace what you have figured out, create conversation and normalize what you and I and we haven't figured out, and to allow you the space to surrender to what you may never figure out. Welcome back. As you can see, if you're watching the video, I am in front of beautiful evergreen trees. I have the sun shining on me. I am here in the land of New Hampshire, close to the border of Canada. This is where my dad lives. Last week, we talked about this state of unconditional beingness. We talked about how sometimes we find ourselves so connected to ourselves, and then we get out in the world and we have to commune and connect with other people who might not be believing the same things as us, who might not be in the same vibrational place as us. And we find ourselves hiding, we find ourselves reverting, we find ourselves coming from this radical joy, this place of joy, this place of alignment with ourselves that we're able to create with ourselves a lot of the time. And we find ourselves then going into hiding bits and pieces of ourselves. I talked primarily last week about being around people and environments that aren't so totally conducive to what you want to create, but not letting that disturb your inner peace, being so unconditional, being so connected, being so believing of where you are and what your path is and who you are, that nothing can really get in the way of that, and allowing the bits and pieces of your life, including relationships that may not be aligned, to fall away if they should fall away. Being so committed to something larger than what you fear, which a lot of us fear being rejected. We talked a lot about the fear of rejection, and instead being committed to the joy, the connected act of wholeness and self-acceptance, and how being yourself in the world is really a radical test of worthiness and self-worthiness and self-validation, and how to really create the space for that in your life. And so this is a follow-up, a part 2 to that episode. And as I'm speaking, I have the sun hitting my face so beautifully. So if you see me just like closing my eyes and allowing my face to reach the sun while I'm talking, please just continue listening on. I am enjoying myself so much. This episode really builds off of that because it is the answer to the question, what happens when you really start connecting to yourself more deeply and trying to be more of yourself in the world, succeeding at being more of yourself in the world, and trying to then find your people. I know so many of us struggle with the finding of community, and I'm going to share a little bit in this episode about my story. And one of the major things that I'm going to talk about, a belief and opinion that I have in this episode, is that a lot of us, especially a lot of us thought daughters, cycle breakers, girlies who love to read, write, feel connected to ourselves, journal under the full moon, we have identified for far too long as introverts. We have told ourselves that we are introverted, that we need our time alone. We have protected ourselves at all costs from going out on Friday nights or Saturday nights because we need to preserve our self connection. And there's nothing wrong with that. It serves a time and a place. But I'm going to assert in this episode that I believe a lot of what we call introversion is actually just social anxiety. A lot of what we call introversion is actually just a self-preservation tactic that we have developed in order to not allow ourselves to be fully seen by the people around us because we're scared of being rejected. And so we create this beautiful little bubble for ourselves to be fully and completely ourselves in the company of only ourselves. And we call that introversion. It is no wonder why you might feel completely drained from being around people if you are putting on a performance when you are around people. It is no wonder why you might feel like your social battery needs a recharge if you are spending all of your energy trying to fit yourself into the box of what this community might want or expect from you when it's not the true and full desire of your heart to be that way, when it is not authentic to you. And so what I have found in my life and in my journey is that when you are able to be more of yourself, drop the layers, drop the pressure that you put on yourself on having to be a certain way around other people and just allow yourself to be exactly as you are, where you are, fully, completely in your beingness, in the presence of others. When you are able to attain that state, you need far less time to recharge. You might actually discover that it's far easier for you to say yes to things, commit to plans, that it is far easier for you to maybe stop identifying as this introvert who needs all this time alone. And that is exactly what I have found on my journey, and I've had quite the journey with this. Now, I will preface this by saying I still need time alone. I think I am, in my true heart of hearts, an introvert in that I need the time to recharge. And trust me, there's nothing I love more than this, but it is only one facet of my life, and I would be remiss to not afford myself the other capacities of love that I can experience. And life is vulnerability. Life is being seen. We cannot be loved without truly being seen. And so when you let yourself be seen, you let yourself be loved. So this episode is going to really talk about all of those different facets of, are you actually an introvert, or are you just socially anxious? Are you just using it as a self-preservation tactic? Are you someone who has craved community so long in your life but hasn't been able to find it? How can you start finding it in your life? How can you start going to places that feel aligned to you, taking yourself on these dates, watering and nurturing your relationship with yourself, which will then ultimately water and nurture your relationship with others and allow that to be a conduit rather than the place that you have to escape to in order to feel fulfilled in a connected way? How can you sustain the pain that comes from outgrowing relationships in your life as a result of growing more into yourself? I have been through this. It hurts and it's hard, but it is just a necessary part of growth. We're going to kind of touch on all of these points today. And I'm so excited to talk about this because it is really a hero's journey, if you will. I have gone through the ringer of growing up and being such a social butterfly when I was a little girl, and then reaching like 10 or 11 and hiding myself, being so shy, having the worst social anxiety. During all of middle school, I was so shy. I was so socially anxious. I was just enduring so much trauma at home, and I was just really uncomfortable in my life, in my body, in my beingness. And I wasn't really able to completely be myself anywhere, it felt like. And there is this memory that I have of sitting at the very end of this lunch table when I was like in 6th grade. And it was me and this other girl who like did not talk. And I would always try to get her to kind of talk to me, but I would sit across from her every day and we would just eat lunch and kind of be in each other's company. But it was so sad because she wouldn't really talk. She was obviously also very, very socially anxious. And like, so was I. And this is how I met one of my best friends who's been in my life for a very long time. She actually like saw me sitting alone at lunch without this girl. This girl wasn't here that day. So I just decided to sit at the end of this lunch table with no one else on it. Like the other end of the lunch table was filled with people. And it was just me at the end of this lunch table. And I had been put in this project with a few people, and I started talking to them and opening up a little bit. And then when we all went to lunch, I literally sat at the end of this table all by myself. And they were like, "Why are you sitting? Come come hang out with us, come sit with us. And that was like the first day that I made friends. But I was so socially anxious. And then I would only stay in relationship with people where I was really comfortable. And during middle school and high school, I literally had like 2 friends. I was so shy. I would not let myself be seen. During middle school, I was, I guess, what you could call bullied. I was always feeling like I was a little bit outside of the crowd. I listened to heavy rock music. I was emo. I really tried to kind of lean into this, you'll never understand me feeling, because that's really how I felt. And then when I got to college, I started to kind of come a little bit more out of my shell. And then when I got into the real world, I noticed that there was this part of me that had been hiding for so long. I just could not hide anymore. There was no way I could sustain it. And I started doing more self-development work and learning more about myself. And then I started this podcast. And ever since then, it's just been a journey back to this part of myself that was this social butterfly, that was curious, that was allowing herself to be seen by the people around her. Like when I was 5 or 6, I would get in trouble for talking in class and raising my hand so much. Like the teachers could not shut me up. They could not shut me up. And then I spent so much of my life being silent and being scared. And I still go through these bouts of social anxiety where if I'm around certain people that remind me of the people who I was bullied by when I was growing up, the mean girls, like I start to feel myself start to shrink and hide. And I've really gone through the ringer of trying to learn how to be more of myself in front of other people because I hid myself for so long. And I'm finally at this beautiful place where I have attracted these friends that are so me. Like they see me and they are beautiful reflections of me, and I see them and I'm a beautiful reflection of them. And I'm so grateful for these friendships and relationships in my life. And I've also attracted a community of people, and it's, taken a lot of time. And now what I'm doing is trying to create those spaces for other people to meet one another, because I know what it's like to be on the outside of it. But I want to really dive into this concept of introversion as a self-preservation tactic and hiding ourselves first and foremost with something that I wrote, of course. And this is not finished. I never really finished this, but this started brewing in me after I had gone to this training for an opportunity that I am now fully immersed in, which is guideship. There is a place in New York City called Othership, and it is a wellness space, a sauna and ice bath, hot, cold therapy. And they have all of these beautiful classes. And I teach a class there called Heart Opener, which is all about the biological coherence of the heart, the resonance of the heart, how to really connect to your heart as an energetic pathway and allow yourself to open and explore feelings of love and grief and sadness. It's so beautiful. I just love being there and teaching, and I've been getting certified in meditation teacher training and in breathwork teacher training. And so these teachings and modalities have just gotten deeper and deeper since I left my job and went to yoga teacher training a year ago today. To be a guide at this facility, you have to go through like several hours, 100 hours of training. It's kind of like a yoga teacher training, and you are bonded with all these people who are also doing it. And it was something that I realized after this training that I don't think as much of an introvert as I thought, because when I'm around these people who I feel so connected to and who are really just so inspiring to me and who are on similar paths but in very different ways than I am, and who can speak to the same elements of growth that I have been able to experience, these people who have met themselves deeper and in that are able to offer more of themselves to a relationship with others than I have experienced maybe before in my life, that in this environment, like I felt so myself. And I got home from this training and I just realized how full I felt, how connected I felt, how easily it was for me to say yes to doing things with these people or going places with these people, and how much I realized that there's actually such a profound opening that happens when you find your people. You no longer have to hide, and you no longer feel this necessity to hide. So without further ado, let's read what I wrote about introversion just being a self-preservation tactic. Are you actually an introvert? Or are you just socially anxious and only feel safe enough to be seen and witnessed with yourself by yourself? An essay written by a girl who is used to using this label as a self-preservation tactic. Labels box us in. They define us bluntly. They create walls where openness should be. They separate us from one another, and the most common labels that create waves of separation include how we interact with each other. Two very distinct ones include introversion and extroversion. Introversion can be defined as anything from an aptitude to reservation and quiet introspection, from Merriam-Webster, to a personality type popularized by Carl Jung. As Psychology Today puts it, introversion suggests an inwards orientation to one's own mental life rather than the outward orientation of extroverts to social life. Introverts gain energy from reflection and lose energy in social gatherings, while extroversion can be defined as anything from an aptitude for unreservedness to a willingness to seek out social interaction, Merriam-Webster. Or as Psychology Today puts it, a personality trait typically characterized by outgoingness, high energy, and/or talkativeness. In general, the term refers to a state of being where someone recharges or draws energy from being around other people. After many years of proudly, if not self-righteously, labeling myself as an introvert, I have come to the conclusion that introversion and extroversion are not aptitudes, identities, or even personality types, but a spectrum that we pendulate on depending on how safe we feel to be ourselves, to be our true selves. Walk with me. This realization came after I finished up a 3-day teacher training with 30 other individuals inside of a cozy space in my home of New York City. I left feeling fulfilled, whole, energized, in complete belonging, and charged up. As I nearly skipped to the L train, my heart on fire by such collective connection and webs of new perspectives to learn from, I had a moment of reckoning. Am I actually an introvert? Is introversion even real? The joy of being in company with others was not a completely unfamiliar feeling, nor should it be. As a species that has thrived in community and social connection, being in company with others is an innate part of our genetic makeup. I've just been under the impression that maybe it skipped a gene when I got into the world. I felt this same exuberance when I traveled to Bali last September and completed my 200-hour yoga teacher training. I felt in complete belonging in this large group of 28 others, and I felt this way at certain times in my life, at moments around certain people, certain friends, certain conversations that enlivened me with curiosity and a certain flow with ease. Yet I've always chalked it up to circumstances that fell into the category of outliers, because surely a girl who loves her alone time this much, who feels so fulfilled and energized and in complete belonging with herself, can't be an extrovert. But then I got to thinking, what makes these outliers feel different than the average social situation? Like when I'm at a party where I'm someone else's plus one, or a networking event by myself where I am responsible for taking the initiative to strike up conversation, or in a group of people who've been friends for a decade and don't necessarily clue me in on the inside jokes. Why isn't it just as easy to feel connected, excited, enlivened by these circumstances? Why do I feel safe and free to talk and talk and talk? In some instances, in others, my mind feels blank and empty. And I long for that recharge that my journal and pen will give me when I reach the cocoon of my solo safe haven. And then I realized that shy was not necessarily a feeling that came naturally to me, but a shield that I armored myself with when I didn't feel safe. And that this fulfillment from being in communion with others is innate to our biological makeup, because existing in a pack is what kept us safe for hundreds of thousands of years. But what if some of us learned that what was safe wasn't community, wasn't belonging, wasn't connection, but instead to commune in silence? This recent reckoning caused me to admit something that I've long avoided to confront. That while I am a girl who loves her alone time, my knack for introversion has really just been social anxiety. It's really just been me protecting myself. And if this is the case for me, how many others are calling themselves shy or introverts, or even tricking themselves into thinking that their social anxiety is doubling as discernment? It's important to protect your energy, don't get me wrong, but seriously, there's a fine line. If I could float back to a body that was much smaller and much younger, I would hover above myself and witness a girl who had a devotion to play and a desire to share. A bright spirit, a social butterfly, and very serious about her schedule of dressing up Barbies and playing pretend. She had a list of contacts ready to call up at any moment to complete the task. I would see a girl who loved her friends, who would spend her school weeks plotting which one would be dressing up which Barbie and at whose house. And when that list of second-grade contacts was exhausted, she kept herself busy with coloring books and games of pretend where she took on the role of all of the characters. It was a very demanding schedule, and as a child, this eagerness extended to all branches of my life. In class, I was the first to raise my hand. On the playground, I was the first one on the swings. If I knew the answer, I would blurt it out before I was called on, and many times this resulted in some type of enforcement of solitude by school teachers who couldn't shut me up. Go in the corner. Shush. Let someone else talk, they'd say to me. I did not have to learn courage. It always knew me. But somewhere along the way, I shoved it into the covers and forgot to change the sheets. A tale as old as time or as old as Carl Jung. The forging of the shadow self is part of the identity where the first remnants of visceral pain from the hand of life are turned inwards and you begin to shield who you really are with who you think you need to be in order to remain safe. In those young moments of heart bruising, my heart began to close. Between the ages of 10 and 11, amidst a chaotic home life of domestic warfare, I turned all of my attention and control inwards. I decided that somehow being who I wanted to be, expressing freely, desiring fully, was a luxury that I couldn't afford in a home of unpredictability. I fought back in the only way that I knew how: silence. Fear began to live deeply in my body, making a home inside of my blood vessels and pumping anxiety into my heart, and I found it difficult to delineate what required a fight or flight response, so I just lived with one all the time. And instead of raising my hand, my palms would sweat when called on in class. Instead of blurting out the answer, my chest would tighten and my voice would shake. Instead of calling up all of the friends on the playtime leaderboard, I chose to sift in silence, and when I did commune with others, weekends at friends' houses felt like more of an escape than play. My shoulders caved in, my eyes were colored in darkness, and I would long await the school day to end so that I could go home, shut my door, and have a few soft hours to feel into the only place I felt safe enough to be myself. With myself. The only place I felt safe enough to be eager. With myself. Inside of the shadows of a contentious custody battle between two unstable parents, I found myself playing in the dark. And playing in the dark, expressing myself fully and freely with the door closed and only letting my light shine bright when it would reflect upon no one, became a character trait that I learned to call just being an introvert. When deep down I longed for the unapologetic self-expression that I once had, I yearned for the artful expression that was innate to me, and I ached for my voice to echo through walls as effortlessly as it once did, bouncing off of others and joining in the symphony of connected affairs. But the reality was, in my own inner world, I unraveled and I continued to find love there. But I longed to be witnessed as myself, for what is this deep knowing of oneself with no one to share it with? For all these years, I have profoundly identified myself as an introvert, a girl who needs her alone time, or else someone who takes a while to warm up. And don't get me wrong, those hours and hours alone etched a deep love in my heart for the power of the relationship with self, the steep brew of solitude, uncovering the mazes of synchronicities and divine experiences through journals that could one day be memoirs, and the soft savoring of answering to no one. Alone time is a beautiful avenue to an open heart, particularly for those of us whose hearts have been slammed shut, closed tightly, and recoiled from love after many young moments of bruising. But the only reason that I found it so fulfilling to spend time alone was because it was the only place that I felt like I could drop my shoulders and live outside of the hypervigilance that I'd mastered. When you're a kid and the one place that is supposed to be safe isn't your home, you don't know what else is. You have no choice but to become your own safe space. I didn't always roll my eyes at invitations to parties because I secretly feared other people. I learned to fear other people simply because I lived in fear. This label that I decorated my personality type with has simply been a tool of self-preservation, a shallow attempt to classify this learned fear, and a painful choice that has exacerbated a narrative of loneliness. And it has been an excuse for me to not deal with the underlying thump of social anxiety that developed out of a lack of safety, which has been slowly healed through more and more attempts to put myself in uncomfortable situations and see the resilience on the other side, see that I am safe on the other side. So when I found myself in a room filled with 30 strangers at a teacher training who had easily just become friends, opening my arms wide for a hug hello, raising my hand, participating eagerly, laughing with my whole chest as loudly as I could, as a 25-year-old adult, there was something so deeply healing about sitting crisscross on the floor, learning with a group of others who shared the same purpose as I did, and healing this part of me that hid for so long. And something so revealing about my choice to identify as an introvert after all these years. I will reiterate again that I am a girl who believes deeply in this power of alone time, but introversion and extroversion as distinct identities have no place in our identities. There is only being oneself and not being oneself. That's all I have. I didn't finish it. Now, talking about being aligned with oneself and connecting to oneself and hearing your intuition, a great tool to hear your intuition is through meditation. And an app that I love to use for meditation is Calm. Calm is the #1 app for both sleep and meditation, and it is here to help you feel better, to help you feel more aligned, and to connect you more deeply with yourself. Incremental progress is so important, and it is built when you decide that in that 5-minute window you have before a meeting or right before you're falling asleep, you're going to prioritize your connection to yourself and your alignment and taking some time to just drop in. So whether it's a 5-minute meditation between meetings or one of their sleep stories before bed, Calm really helps me to just slow down, to find that sense of calm, even when everything feels like it's just speeding up or I can't catch my breath. They have guided meditations for anxiety and stress, grounding exercises to reset when you're overwhelmed, and even just calming music to play in the background and sleep stories that help you drift off naturally. When you calm your mind, you truly change your life. And Calm has an exclusive offer just for listeners of this show. You can get 40% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/Vanessa. This is an amazing value, guys. Their library is so rich and so good and so full. So go to calm.com/Vanessa for 40% off unlimited access to Calm's entire library. That's calm.com/Vanessa, and tell Calm you heard about them from me. The link will also be in the description. Big thank you to Calm for sponsoring this episode. Now back to it. But overall, this really echoes this sentiment that I found so profoundly, which is that I don't think anyone is actually an introvert or an extrovert. I think it's a spectrum that we all kind of fall on given the day, the time, the week, the month, and that we might have more of a proclivity or propensity towards one. But I would argue that if you have more proclivity or a propensity towards introversion or extroversion, this is distinctly because of how you learned how to be safe. So if you grew up feeling really safe in the presence of others and you were able to sustain that throughout your life, then you're probably more of an identified extrovert. I think this is something that a lot of us on our traversing through the cycle-breaking journey can really experience and really understand at a core level, because when we start to crave community, we also start to realize that we can only meet ourselves so deeply before we need relationships in our lives to continue growing and learning and being big and inspired and full. And so if you are someone who feels like they can only be themselves with themselves, who can relate to the piece that I just wrote, I really want you to ask yourself the next time that you are in presence, in company with others, how do you feel? Actually, how do you feel internally? Are you anxious? Is there part of you that is not bringing the fullness of yourself? Are you worried about being rejected? Are you performing? And as you go home and you start to maybe unravel some of these layers of yourself, I also invite you to ask yourself, what is the difference right now? What is the difference in my body, in the way that I'm moving, in the way that I am going about my day? How does it feel to be safe to be myself? This is the question that I started asking myself when I was alone and when I could feel so joyful and in my own presence and company, feeling this sense of, oh my God, I'm so myself right now. I can create fully and freely. I don't care to record this right now. Like, I have no feeling of, is someone going to hear me? Is someone going to judge me? Or whatever it is. I can just be myself. And I started to notice how it felt like in my body to be myself, to be in this beingness, to be in this joy that I was creating with and for myself, and how there were certain people that I could feel it around, and that those were the relationships I really wanted to lean into, but that I didn't want to be conditional about being myself. I didn't want to be conditional about my beingness, and neither should you. You should be able to be yourself wherever you are, however you exist. That is your right. That is your reward for being alive. You should never have to hide yourself in order to feel like you need to be accepted. And this is something that's conditioned into us. So it's okay if you have and if you do, but it's something that we can unlearn as we learn how to be more of ourselves. And so the first step is really, okay, can we not hide when we're alone? Can we face ourselves? Can we tell ourselves the honest truths? Can we be expressive with ourselves? Can we dance and sing and scream and be in our bodies and be expressive and just completely allow ourselves to be fully ourselves when we're with ourselves? That's step one, because if you can't let yourself be yourself with yourself, then how do you expect to be yourself around anyone else? How do you expect anyone else to see you if you don't see yourself? So this is all kind of with the preconceived notion that you see yourself, you understand yourself, that you have developed a relationship with yourself. And if that's something that you are still focused on, don't worry, there are plenty of figuring shit out episodes for you that you can really lean more deeply into in nurturing and fostering the relationship with yourself. For the first season and the second season, really figuring shit out was a tool for you to build and invest in the most important relationship that you have in your life, the one with yourself. So I will link some episodes down below if you're curious about practices and ways to get to know yourself more, connect more deeply to yourself. That is something that is a foundation of the work that I do and the podcast that you are listening to. And so with the understanding, the pretense that that is something that many of us already have. We've already developed this relationship with ourselves. We already have this ongoing dialogue with ourselves. With that, then how can you bring it into the world? So the second step is really, are there people in your life who you feel like you can be more of yourself with? Are there people who make you feel excited and joyful and in love with life, who you can share these tools with, that you explore, that you can be fully yourself with? Are you able to think of even one person you can just laugh around and just be fully yourself and be silly around? If you have a relationship like that in your life, I want you to text that person right now and just say hi, and I'm grateful for you, because that is a gift. It is a gift to have even one relationship like that. That is why we're here. It's why we're alive. We're here to share that beingness, that connectedness, that communion with other people. And it is so special. It is so beautiful. It is so important. And if you are listening to this and you're like, I don't have that, I got you. It's okay. You're going to find it. Trust that you're going to find it. The more that you be yourself, the more that your people will find you. How do you expect to find your people if you can't be yourself in the world? How do you expect for your people to find you if they don't know what they're looking for? They don't know who you are. You're hiding. The more that you can be fully yourself in the world, go to places and spaces that feel aligned to you, make decisions and choices that feel aligned to you, the more that you will attract those people, the more easy it will be. So we'll get to that in a second. But if you have felt like you've been on this journey alone, or maybe you don't live in a big city, or you don't live somewhere where there's not really spaces that feel like it's aligned to you, I would love to invite you into my community. I am building this beautiful community. It currently has women in it who have all been through a course that I created at the beginning of this year called the Road Less Travelers. Let me tell you a little bit about the Road Less Travelers. The Road Less Travelers is a program that I created after I had taken the Road Less Traveled. If you've been listening for a while, you know that season 3 was all about my journey of leaving my corporate full-time job in tech while living in New York City, the most expensive place in America, probably, and deciding to pursue this podcast full-time, deciding to take a leap of faith, deciding to believe enough in myself, in my dreams, in my capacity for being alive, being here, being with this purpose that I feel so connected to, that I was going to take the bet on myself. And so I left a job that I felt deeply, deeply unaligned with. I went to Bali. I did yoga teacher training. I was gone for 2 months. I came back to New York, and then I basically had to learn how to build this business and learn more about myself in this new context, integrate all these experiences. And so the Road Less Travelers is a program that I created that really encapsulates like the beginning, middle, and end of what it's like to take a leap of faith and become aligned with yourself. So this does not have to be leaving a job. It does not have to be changing course dramatically. It's really just the choice to live aligned and unbound by the fears that have maybe driven you for so long. And in it is 5 weeks. We explore different parts of the psyche, including the inner child, the higher self, the inner elder, the relationship that we have with divinity, all of these different parts of ourselves. We explore the shadow self, the inner critic. We create a relationship with. A lot of this is based off of the work that I've done in therapy and research on internal family systems, which is also known as parts work. And it also takes you through the energetic centers of the body. Every single week is connected to one of these different parts of ourselves and one of the energetic centers of the body, or 2 of the energetic centers of the body if they're connected to that part. Then it also goes into somatic work. So how do we integrate really the mind, body, and the soul into an alignment? And it's something that I created for people to be able to do in their life. Like, I didn't want it to be something that you have to be prepared to do, or you have to go across the world to do, or you have to take this exorbitant amount of time to do. It is really something that is integrative into life. It has podcast episodes, meditations, and it has these activities and assignments and ceremonies that I have created that are all connected to the week, and everything is laid out and completely done really for you. It is a beautiful program. I've watched it change people's lives. I was running live containers of this where it was 5 to 7 people at a time, taking these people through this journey week by week, showing up for these live workshops. And it was such a beautiful experience. And that is the beginning of this beautiful community that I've built. All of these people who've gone through this course and completed it, many of them have continued on into a community that has live workshops and more resources, more meditations, more connections, more ceremonies. They connect with each other. We have a group chat. It's a really beautiful space, and it's a really tight-knit community of women who just really are working on believing in themselves and believing in each other. It's a space to be celebrated, a space to be seen, a space to be supported. It is so beautiful, so near and dear to my heart. I love this community so deeply, and I'm so grateful to lead it. And I'm opening it up for people to join. So if you are interested, you can join the mailing list and you can get notified about when this is open. And you can also, if you are interested in the course itself, I decided to make it more accessible because it was something that a lot of people were interested in, but could not really afford at the price point that it was at. But the price point that it was at was reflective of the work that I was giving it, the energy that I was giving it, because I was literally in this course with you for 5 weeks at a time. I was there. I would do one-on-ones with everyone in the group. It was kind of a lot, and it was something that I didn't really feel energetically equipped for. And so I was like, how do I continue allowing this program, this container, to be a container where you're held and seen and supported and loved while you're going through this deep inner work and seeing the outer transformation in your life? The most powerful part of it that I saw was the community, and was the fact that people were in it together, connecting with each other. And so I was like, how do I continue creating this container in a way that is supportive for both me and the people on the other end of it, that's accessible for them, and then also give them access to a community? And so the Road Less Traveled is now available as more of a self-paced and hybrid course. You are still in a container for 5 weeks. So you have access to me for the 5 weeks through voice notes, and then there's varying levels of tiers that you can choose based on how much support you would want and how much I'm able to give. There's only a couple of spots every 5 weeks available for that. And then for that 5 weeks, you are also put into the community. So you're put into the community of all of these people who are either going through this course or who have been through the course. So you have all this opportunity to connect with them. I help to facilitate those connections. You can chat with them, talk to them, connect with them. And as I have deepened my training and practice of meditation and breath work and started to train in those modalities, Pilates as well as yoga. My knowledge has expanded so much. The ability for me to serve this community has expanded so much. I am able to now create ceremonies with breath work and with somatic movement and with these things that I've been studying. It just continues to grow as I grow, which is the most beautiful part of it. So if you're interested in the container, you will be granted access to the community for 5 weeks. I will be opening up the community shortly and soon for there to be live workshops and facilitations and everything that I just mentioned. If you're interested in this, sign up for the mailing list below and DM me over Instagram the word invite, and we can chat about it and talk about if it's right for you. I am really, really excited about this. It's going to be announced and launched officially during season 4, but I wanted to offer it to you on this episode specifically because this is an episode all about community. This is an episode all about how do you find your people in this world. And so if you love figuring shit out, if you are listening to this podcast, if you're like, damn, I want some people who I can share my thoughts of whimsy with and who will get it and understand it, I can almost promise you that this space will welcome you with open arms and you will find that. And it's a really beautiful thing. And I love that I get to create it and be part of it. So wanted to plug, but if it's not your thing, if you're not really sure about it right now, how can you be more of yourself in the world? And I said this before, I will reiterate it again. Your people cannot find you if you are hiding. The people who are meant to be in your life cannot be in your life if you are not aligned with the version of you that is meant to accept them. If you are closing the space and closing your heart every single time you go into the world, if you have been trained to close yourself every single time you're in a social interaction or every time you're with other people, then how can they possibly love you? How can they possibly see you? How can they possibly show you more of themselves? And so this is a question of how are you closing yourself off to deepening the existing relationships in your life because you assume or expect that people are going to misunderstand you? And how are you closing yourself off from new connections because you are not allowing yourself to be seen and heard and loved? This all does come from the alignment that you have with yourself and the ability that you have with yourself to listen to your own intuition. And so it really is a practice of how safe do you feel being with yourself? How safe can you create a space for yourself to then be able to listen deeper, to then be able to be led to environments and situations that feel connected to you? Everything in my life right now, everything in my life, from the community that I am building and the business that I am running, to the podcast that I have 30,000 audience members of, to the facilitator experience that I'm getting, facilitating these classes for New Yorkers to open their hearts and learning about breathwork, learning about meditation in community with 30 other people who are also facilitators of their own right and who are talented and amazing and just incredible. All of these experiences, the relationship that I have now that I've been in for 2.5 years, that is so fulfilling and connected and loving and provides me with so much joy. The friendships that I'm nurturing and watering in my life that feel like this medicine. This is not to brag, y'all. This is me telling you that it is possible. And this is all as a result of me listening to my intuition. This is all as a result of me being like, that's something that I want to do, that feels right to me, that is authentic to me. That is a step forward. They've all been steps forward. None of this has happened overnight. None of this is something that I just spun up into thin air. A lot of this is constant reiteration of the work, the inner work that then allows you for that outer exploration, the inner work that turns into that outer unboundedness and that outer freedom. And again, if you are looking for, where do I start with that work? The Road Less Traveled is a great container for it and is so, so special. It is 5 weeks of really learning about yourself, learning to really release all that noise and go into the part of you that is always whispering and speaking to you. And so when you are listening to that voice that's whispering, that's speaking to you, I don't know why I just had this call. I don't know why I'm just doing this thing. That is so, so important. Hi. Okay, guys, so if you are listening to this episode instead of watching it, and also if you're watching it, I'm just dropping in because my mic cut out because these 2 golden retrievers, the neighbor's dogs next door, came up to me and started attacking me with love and joy and happiness, and it made me so happy, but it interrupted this episode, so that's why I'm dropping in. And I just thought it was so perfect because I'm sitting there talking about alignment and then this beautiful aligned thing happens. So if you're watching the video, enjoy this clip of me being attacked by golden retrievers, and if you're listening to the podcast, just know that that is what was happening and you're going to hear me reflect on it. This is the most magical thing that could have happened while recording this episode. Guys, 2 golden retrievers come out of nowhere. That's what happens. That is what happens when you're aligned and connected and you feel a deep resonance with the present moment and you're doing what you love. Two golden retrievers come out of nowhere and attack you with love. I guess we continue. Oh my God, that was awesome. Where was I? I don't even know what I was talking about. That just completely took my train of thought. Oh, when you are aligned with yourself, you make aligned choices. And when you make aligned choices, they bring you to places that feel a lot easier for you to sink yourself into. And this all kind of started forming in my life. Like this journey that I'm on now started a few years ago when I decided to start this podcast to show myself online. This podcast came from listening to a call that I had to just start like yapping on TikTok. TikTok felt like a very safe space at the time because not a lot of people were completely on it. And it felt like a place that I could be myself and have my own alias. And I ended up growing a community there of over 100,000 people in 6 months. And it was just my sign to be like, oh, I need to pay attention to this. This is something that came really easy to me. It was a natural call that I had. It's something I have fun doing. I actually didn't really think of myself as a speaker at all. I was always a writer. But again, I think I was a writer and I am a writer because that's where I learned to be safe. I learned to be safe expressing myself with pen and paper and not so much with my voice. And it has been a beautiful gift that I've been able to nurture and connect to and covet. All of this to say that I started this from just listening to a little call in my head that was like, make a TikTok, start a podcast. And I was one day scrolling on TikTok, and this is not something that would happen today. Like this was very much connected to the time. And this is also not something that I would do today because I have more experience and it was a different time. It was a couple of years ago. And I saw this girl on TikTok. When I saw her speaking, I was just like, I know you. I know you. I know you. I know you. You are me. I am you. I felt so connected to her and I don't know why, but I just felt so connected to her and I felt this like call to reach out. And she was also a creator and I was a creator. I make similar content to her. So, why not? Maybe she'll reply and we'll be friends. I could not have ever expected that would lead to what it is now. I reached out to her over Instagram. She responded and we started talking over voice notes, over Instagram DMs. We would voice note each other. We started having FaceTimes every couple of weeks. Our first FaceTime was like 4.5 hours of just us talking. And it was so easy. And it took a really long time. We nurtured this friendship. This developed over a long period of time. And this is why I say it takes time. It takes time to find your people. It takes time to find friends. Talking about aligned places with potentially aligned faces, I am hosting a retreat in Costa Rica in March of 2026. There are currently 10 people signed up for the trip, and there is one early bird spot left at the time of this recording. So that means you would get 10% off the entire cost of your trip. You only need to put down 25% to secure your spot for the trip. I just ask if you have a call to come to Costa Rica, hang out with me and other people who are figuring shit out, other girlies who are figuring shit out. Right now, it's all women. And trot through the forest and hike up mountains and be in connection and in workshop with one another and allow yourself to be seen in that space. If you have an itty bitty call to it, I urge you to listen. You can reach out. I'm happy to talk to you about the trip, give you more details, send you some stuff. But I just wanted to make you aware that there's one 10% off spot left at the time of this recording. So you might have a chance to grab it. And if there's not, then there's still spots left. Where can you go that you really enjoy? Is there a coffee shop that makes you feel cozy and connected that you can go work at? Are there events happening in your town that you can go join? Is there a yoga studio that you can go to? Do you enjoy working out? Do you love going to the movies? I'm going to tell you what you need to do in order to find your people. You need to do these things alone. You and you. That is where it starts. When you start doing things that you like to do with yourself, you naturally find people who also do those things. You connect to them, you gravitate towards them. That is why yoga teacher training changed my life so much, because all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm here in the same exact place as so many other people who've decided to be here for these 3 weeks. Like, how can that not be aligned? All it takes is evidence. It takes evidence that there are people out here who are just like me, who are on the same path, who are aligned, who will support me unconditionally. I don't have to be anything else. I don't have to do anything else. I don't have to earn love. If you can find one person like that, that's your evidence. If you can find one space like that, if you can even look at me, someone who was so shy, who felt so outcasted, who had such bad social anxiety, I still struggle with it sometimes. And I'm leading classes of up to 65 people, presenting myself and facilitating and doing all of these things and community here and there. I still get anxious. I still find myself in these limiting beliefs, but I know that there's evidence that it doesn't have to be it. So even if you take me as evidence, as someone who's been through this journey, find the evidence. And then once you start seeing the evidence, you will look for it everywhere you go and you will start to be more of yourself. So I just encourage you to do what you want to do, what is aligned to you, to listen to the call inside of your heart, inside of whatever is whispering to you, and go to the place that you want to go to. Do the thing that you want to do. If you see a flyer for something and you're like, God, I really wish I had someone to go to that with. I don't. I'm just not going to go, but I really want to go. Go. Go by yourself. Introduce yourself to one person. Tell someone that you like their scarf or their sweater if you like their scarf or their sweater. Share love. Be in a state of being aligned with yourself to the extent that it doesn't matter if people are going to join you, because you know that your people are going to find you. And so leaving this episode, I want to challenge you to do one thing outside of your comfort zone that you want to do, listening to an alignment somewhere within you this week. It could be reaching out to someone who you felt called to reach out to ask them to go to coffee or ask them to chat. It could be creating something that you've been putting off for a while. What can you do that will allow you to follow the call of your heart, even if it's something to do by yourself? And oftentimes the call of our heart is not the most comfortable thing to do. Oftentimes it's the thing that will dismantle us from the current reality that has only brought us the same conditioned patterns that we know lead us into comfortability and chosen fear. So what can you do? And if you want to share in the comments below once you've done it, or what you're going to do as an accountability metric, please do. And know that it takes time. It takes time. This is a slow process of one foot in front of the other. One aligned choice leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to the next. And it's a really beautiful unraveling, but give yourself that time and allow yourself the space to make that inquiry of how are you hiding? Where are you hiding? And use these 2 episodes to really root into the unconditional beingness of you, knowing that that is the safest you'll ever be, is learning how to be fully yourself. Because when you can create the safety to be fully yourself, no matter where you are, you carry that safety with you. It's something that you create. You don't have to go look for it elsewhere. It is within you. And it takes practice, but it is possible. And this podcast, my work, me, I am here as a resource for you to navigate it. So I just want to say thank you for listening to this. And this is certainly not the end of this conversation. If you have any questions about this episode, you can drop it in the comments below, or you can also write to me. There is a place on my website where you can submit questions that will then potentially turn into podcast episodes if it's something that I'm feeling aligned enough with. And so if you have any further questions or anything about this, drop it in the comments. And if you're interested in joining that community, you can also reach out by DMing the word invite. But this friendship, it has brought so much joy to my life, like so much just family to my life. And it all happened because I was scrolling on TikTok. We built this relationship over the course of like 3 years. And so it took time, it took nurturing. It wasn't like right off the gate, I was like, you see me, I see you. We are meant to be sisters. I think that is something to watch out for as well. Discernment is necessary. It is not just in a relationship that is romantic that you can breed false intimacy, love bombing. If there is a friendship in your life where it's new and they start saying, I love you, I think personally it should result in the same red flag as being in a romantic relationship and only seeing that person a few times or for a few weeks and then them saying, I love you. In any friendship that I've been in where that has been the narrative, where it's been like really quick to share that sense of intimacy or like really quick to trauma bond or any of that, it hasn't really felt aligned. And again, this is me listening to my intuition. Another thing that can happen when you start to meet people who really nourish you and nurture you is that you might block yourself from the people who you've outgrown. You might say like, this person understands me and this person doesn't. And I went through that for a while as I started to invest in more of the fulfilling relationships in my life. I would look at the other relationships in my life that maybe weren't so fulfilling and say to myself, why can't you be XYZ? And that's just not fair. I talked about this a lot in the last episode, but it is really unfair to put an expectation on anyone to be anything for you. That is not their job. You are meant to be who you are meant to be for yourself. And through that, you will attract relationships that can then show up in the way that you need. You will. It will happen. And it's an unfair expectation that is keeping you from seeing where love does fully and completely exist in your life. And so for a while, I was in that habit of being like, why can't you be like this? And feeling like I had just completely outgrown some of the friends in my life and some of the relationships in my life. And now that I'm really back in this place of wholeness, I can engage with those friendships and I know that I still love them and they still love me, and that's that. And that maybe those aren't the friendships that I go to share all of the joys and exclamations of abundance in my life, because maybe those friends aren't able to receive that, aren't able to hear it. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to be friends with them. Some people might be like, well, I don't want those people in my life. For me, love exists no matter what. For me, that love is still important. It would be really unfair for me to reject a friendship just because it's not like aligned with all of the self-development and spiritual growth that I've had in my life. That would be also a antithesis to self-development and spiritual growth. Like, true growth is being able to be yourself no matter what, to share love with people no matter what, and to be able to see someone however they are and love them and let them love you in whatever capacity that they can, and let that be that. So when it comes to outgrowing friends in your life and having to go through that period of darkness and loneliness, because you might have to, I had to go through a period of feeling like I wasn't really understood by people and that I didn't really have my people in order to find my people and start seeing them sprout and emerge everywhere. I had to be so true to myself that it didn't matter if I felt kind of outcasted by certain friendships or relationships in my life, or ostracized because I wasn't like them, or I wasn't doing the things that they were doing, or I didn't want to go out. I had to choose myself. And it was lonely. I had to experience that in order to attract what I'm attracting now, and in order to repair those relationships in a way where I'm like, you can exist as you are, I can exist as I am, and I accept you. And I don't know if you fully accept me, but because I accept you, it doesn't even matter. I fully accept me and operate in those relationships from that place. And those relationships, of course, are not going to get the same amount of attention from me. Those relationships aren't going to be as invested in. I might see those friends like once a month. I might text them and say, hey, hope you're doing well, love you. And it's that simple. It can be that simple. You don't have to carry around this resentment for people not understanding you. That is just another impact of you not seeing or understanding yourself, because why would you need them to fill your cup if your cup was full? And then from that full place, you're able to then attract community into your life. I will also say that when you start listening to your intuition and following these impulses that you get to reach out to someone or say hi to someone, that you will then start finding yourself in aligned places. For you, being fully yourself is the safest thing. That is what will attract the aligned people. That is what will allow you to be mostly aligned with yourself. That is what will allow alignment to come find you, to come sit next to you, to come love you. That is what will cause two golden retrievers to come and swarm you with love in the middle of the day. Truly, it is you being yourself in the world. That is the safest thing for you to do. And learning how to unravel that subconscious contract begins with you learning how to listen to yourself, doing the thing that you're scared to do, but you know you need to do one step forward. And then all of a sudden, a year later, you look around and you're like, oh my God, my life is so different because I started listening to myself. And maybe it was really hard, and maybe you had to grieve a lot of things, and maybe your friends at the time had to fall away and relationships in your life started to dissipate a little bit more. It was all clearing space for what was truly meant for you. Yoga teacher training was really my experience of choosing to be in an aligned place at an aligned time, and then finding 30 aligned people and connecting with these people deeply and feeling like I could be seen and I could be myself, and realizing that when you choose yourself, it does not matter where you are in the world, people will find you. You will find them. You will find your people when you are true to yourself. And so if this is something, again, that you struggle with, learning how to be more of yourself in the world, how to attract community in a time where that is what we're craving right now. We're craving it so, so much. Again, the invitation to my community is open for you. DM me the word invite, reach out, let's chat, let's talk. Thank you guys so, so much for listening. Thank you for rating the podcast. If you haven't already, go rate it, comment on this episode, share it with a friend. I love doing what I do. Thank you for making it possible. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for speaking the good word of figuring shit out, wearing your hats and your merch, which are now available, which I love so much. And I love seeing you guys in them. Thank you for listening. Remember, if you spend your whole life trying to get your act together, you don't have a life, you have an act. So go and live your fucking life. Be yourself in the world. I love you, and I'll see you next week.
You got to look for the redeeming feature. You got to look for things to appreciate. You got to find a reason to make it okay where you are. No, I've got to strive and struggle and try. That's what I've been taught. Growth and expansion is my quest. No, that's inevitable. Whether it comes easy or hard is the question.
The horrible truth is that it's an inside job. That if you're going to get that love and that respect that you've just that union starts inside.
To every experience of growth, there is an equal and an opposite. And that equal and an opposite is what drives you to that light. So you have to start inwards. You have to start first within yourself.